So we want to put in some levels to start out with before we start our project, because in Revit, we're working in 3 dimensions. We have, in AutoCAD, we basically worked in 2, length and width, but in Revit, we work in third, which is the height. So we have an X, Y, and Z coordinate. So we want to put in some levels to talk about where the top of the second floor wall is, what the second floor, where the second floor is. We're going to put some levels because in our project, our house is going to have a basement. It will have a first floor and it will have a second floor. Now this particular house has a attic as well. And it will also have a garage. Whether you put space above the garage or not is your choice, because in this class, you're the architect, you're the designer of the house, but we have to put together documents to explain to someone else how that house would be put together. So when we get to our stacked walls, we will have 3 different stacked walls, but that's getting ahead of ourselves here. But this is a good demonstration right here. This is the outside wall of the garage. This is a wall between the house and the garage, and this is the outside wall of the house. So we'll come back to this a little bit later, but for now, let's start making some levels. And what we want to do is we want to point out where the basement floor is. We want to talk about where the grade is, where the top of the basement wall is, and we want to talk about where the first floor is, where the top of the first floor is, where the second floor is, and where the top of the second floor is. And so we will do that next to create our project. So what you want to do is go to any of the elevations, east, north, south, or west, and you'll see that you have 2 elevations to begin with here. There are 2 levels is what Revit gives us. So if we want this level, we can change that level to first floor. And I like to just have the least amount of text there as possible. What Revit's asking is, do we want to change the name of this level over here? And I say yes. So watch what happens now. That level in our browser is called the first floor. And we can call this, well, we'll just call it TO for the top of 1 STFL wall. So that's the top of the first floor wall. And again, we don't really need that to be over here. So I'm going to cancel that out, and I'm going to change the name of this. Let's see, I might have messed up here. We'll call this the 2NDFL, second floor. And it didn't rename it. Let's see. I want to get back. Whoops. Let's see if it'll do that now, because I will call it the second floor. Okay. There we go. And so, yes, we do want to call it. Now we have our first and we have our second floor. Okay. Now, I like to make these a different color, and we'll do that in a minute. So let's talk about making more levels now. So let's just simply click on this object, go over to the ribbon. Revit, when I click on this object, Revit is going to activate this tab, which gives us this ribbon. Revit thinks that I'm probably going to want to click on something in this ribbon, so it activates it, and it's true. I want to copy that, and I can copy it. Now Revit says, okay, well, how far do you want to copy it? Well, I can click anywhere on the screen and use my mouse to show the direction and use my keyboard to show the distance. So on my mouse is just going straight down, but my keyboard is going to put in the distance. So what I just did was I copied that level down 2 feet, and we'll change the name of this level to grade. That's where the earth is, okay? And I do like the earth to be, the grade level to be a different color. So I've right-clicked on top of there. I'm going to say override graphics in view just by the element, not the entire category, and I'll just change it to green. And the reason I like to do that is because if I'm working over here, and I can't see the label of the level, I still know that's the grade because it's green. I do want to do the same thing with the floors, but I haven't put in a basement floor yet. So we'll change all three of those at the same time. Now you can see that these are on top of each other, and that's a mess. So if we click on this, we get this little squiggly. I call it a cedilla. And if we click on that little cedilla, it pops it down. So now I can read both of those. And that's another thing that I'll be looking for on your final presentation, your final project, is that you've cleaned up these levels so that I can read what they are. All right, so now let's make a top of first floor wall. And we'll just copy that. So I've clicked on this object. Revit has activated this one. I'll go over to the copy icon, which is right here. And I'm going to click here, go up, and I'm going to say that the top of the first floor wall is 9 feet, 0 space 5/8. Okay, so it's going to be 9 foot 0 and 5/8 of an inch. And then look at that. Got on top of it again. So click here, click my little cedilla, popped it down. And if I wanted to move it down farther, we have this little guy right here. So we'll change the name of it. TL1STFL wall. So that's the top of the wall. And I don't change the color of that. Now the distance between the top of the first floor wall and the second floor is 12 inches. So I'm going to come over to the quick access toolbar now and see this little icon here, which is dimension. And I'm going to dimension right there. And I can see that it's not 12 inches. So I will click on this level and this dimension becomes active and I can change the dimension. So I'm going to just type 1, because Revit thinks in feet. And now I have that 1 foot apart. So we'll copy the second floor up. So we're going to click on this, copy, click here, go straight up with the mouse, and we'll make the second floor 9 foot 0 and 5/8 inches too. We'll rename that TO 2NDFL wall. Okay, so what we're doing is we're putting in some levels here so that when we draw our objects in our model, we can actually tell it. If it's a wall, the base of the wall is at the first floor, and it goes all the way up to where? Well, to the top of the first floor wall. Okay, so far so good. Now, let's see, this first floor to the top of the basement wall, we'll copy this. I think that's 1 foot, 1.5 inches. Okay, and that's a mess. So what are we going to do? How are we going to, well, we'll click on this guy and click his squiggly or cedilla. And I'll hover over this and I can see where the dot is. And so, but when I move my mouse, I lose it, but I kind of know where it is. So I'm going over there. All right, so now this we're going to rename TO, basement wall. Okay, so now I got the top of the basement wall, grade, top of the basement wall, first floor, top of first floor wall, second floor, top of second floor wall. How tall is my base? If this is the top of the basement wall, I'll copy this down 9 foot 10. That'll be the height of the basement wall. So we'll call that the BO, bottom of, BSMT, WAL, bottom of the basement wall. Okay. And we'll copy that up 4 inches, because that will be the thickness of the floor slab. And that is actually our basement floor. So now let's see, if I click on this, I think it's right there. Yep, we got it. All right, so that just dropped it down. All right, so this is going to be the basement floor. Okay, so now I can click on this guy, hold the control key down, and click on this guy and this guy. So I've picked all the floors now. Right click, override graphics in view by element, and these I like to make it red. Okay, and you don't have to do this with yours, but it makes it easier. So if I'm working over here, looking at this section, at a section, and I can't see the levels, but I can see real quickly these colors tell me what these levels are. Or of course, I can always hover over top of it, and the answer to my question is which level is it will pop out and as a label. So okay, I like that. What else do we need? Bottom of the basement wall. Well, there is a footing for the garage, which will be 42 inches below the grade. So copy this down. That distance changes based on the location, but here, without going in the explanation of the footing, we're just trying to get to below the frost level, and we'll just say it's 42 inches. So I'll rename that to BO garage footing. Okay, we're at the bottom of garage footing. Maybe I can drop that down just a little bit. So now look at this. I can read all of those, so that's fine. So I'd like to put some dimensions in here, and you might want to do that too. So from the bottom of the basement wall to the top of the basement wall is how much? 9'10". Okay, like that. Then from the top of the basement wall to the first floor, it's 1'1.5". That makes sense to me. Then we have this. Notice that I'm just continually clicking, and it's adding in a running dimension. Now I want to place it. So I have to click on some place where there's nothing that it will select. Because if I click on an object, Revit will think I want a dimension to that. So I'm looking for a void space, got plenty of it, meaning that there isn't anything there. So I'll click here, and Revit goes, okay, you didn't click on another thing. So that must mean you're telling me to place the dimension. This is a bit redundant now, so I can delete it. And this is hard to view. So if I click on the dimension line anywhere, I get all these little objects that I can drag. So, okay, just want to be a little bit consistent here. If I'm dragging out the floor thicknesses, I'll drag it out on both, even though you could still read it here. So this looks good. The distance from the bottom of the garage, or bottom of the basement wall to the top of the basement wall is 9'10", which means that's the height of the basement wall in this project. And you can use these dimensions too, or you can make your own. One other one here is there's going to be something called a brick ledge. So I want to know what that is. And the distance from the top of the basement wall. Oh, I already have that. All right, so we'll put that brick ledge in right here. Okay, so that'll make sense what that actually is in a little bit later. If we go back to here, let's zoom in there real quick. What the brick ledge is the basement wall is from the bottom of the basement wall to the top of the basement wall, but from the grade up, the thickness of the basement wall changes because we want to have brick there. Above the ground, we want to see brick. Below the ground, we want concrete. So this section right here is called the brick ledge. Okay, so, well, let's go back to there real quick again. And you can see it, that's in graphic form, but this is really what it's going to look like, is it's going to be like that. So when we actually draw it, anyway, we have our levels in now. So we're in good shape here with our levels. Now the interesting thing is we have to do this on every view because this work that I did here is view specific. See, no colors changes, and it's all messed up. So if you present your final project to me like this, it's not going to go well in terms of scoring. So see the north, the south, the west, and the east, the north, the south, and the west, or the north, south, and west are no longer, haven't changed yet. So we have to change those individually. So every view has its own display settings. So I like that. We'll go back to our first elevation, but notice that the important thing to recognize is that now all of those levels are visible here as well as here, as well as here. So I just went through all of the 4 elevations that come standard with Revit, and you can see that the levels are all there on all 4 elevations, but they need to be presentable. They need to be cleaned up, but we can worry about that later. So it's always a good idea to save the project. This is our project 1. This is what it defaults to, and I'm okay with that because it's in the right folder, which is this class folder. So okay, we'll stop it here.